Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to our channel, The Forgotten Files. Also, drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from and what time it is. Alright, let's get started. In the winter of 1846, a burning pyre stood behind the iron gates of St. Pelagia Parish in rural Louisiana. Witnesses swore they watched a chained slave woman, silent, unblinking, lowered onto the flames. But her body never burned. Within seconds, she simply disappeared, swallowed by a column of smoke so black it distorted the air around it. The parish sealed the records. The sheriff resigned 3 days later, and every witness who spoke of it died within the year. Her name was whispered only in secret. Morel, the slave who cured 33 impossible illnesses, who walked barefoot into fevers that killed whole households, who saw things that made white doctors tremble. This documentary uncovers the forgotten event America tried to erase. The witch slave who cured the dying was sentenced to burn and vanished before the fire touched her skin. This is not a ghost story. This is a story about institutional fear, buried corruption, forbidden healing, and a woman whose existence threatened the most powerful structures of the American South. The story begins on the Lagrange plantation, 30 miles north of New Orleans. In the early 1840s, the land was described as productive, but diaries from the plantation owner's wife tell another story. Children died without cause. Livestock collapsed. Workers fainted in the fields. Doctors from the city came and went, baffled. And then, one humid night in July 1843, a teenage slave girl climbed from the quarters and entered the sick room of the plantation owner's infant daughter. The child had been given hours to live. But by dawn, she was sitting upright, giggling, and the girl, Morel, was sitting beside her, eyes unfocused, whispering a language no one recognized. When confronted, she said something that terrified even the pastor. The fever obeys those who remember what was forgotten. A phrase so unsettling the family banned it from being repeated. Rumors began. She could touch boiling water. She could sense death before it arrived. She avoided churches, and churches avoided her. But the most dangerous rumor was the simplest. She could cure what no white doctor could. One by one, impossible healings unfolded. A field boy's rotting leg healed overnight. A woman with seizures stopped convulsing after Morel placed both hands over her head. A child unable to speak since birth whispered her first word, Morel. The plantation owner kept her hidden, fearing she would be stolen or lynched. But word spread. Workers from neighboring farms appeared at the fence line at dusk, begging for help. And she helped them. Every single one. Not for money, not for favor, but for reasons she never explained. Someone at the plantation documented her actions in a small leather journal, the same one the parish would later try to burn. One entry reads, "She works without exhaustion. She sleeps without dreaming. She listens to voices none of us hear." By the time she saved her 10th person, the plantation chapel banned her from entering the grounds. By the time she saved 20, the bishop declared her a walking abomination. By the time she reached 33, the parish demanded something unthinkable. Her execution. St. Pelagia Parish had a reputation. Strict, controlling, obsessed with the idea that salvation came only through them. When rumors of Morel reached the clergy, they didn't see a healer. They saw a threat. A slave girl performing miracles undermined the chain of authority the church relied on. So they crafted a narrative, quietly but strategically. They called her unclean. They called her possessed. And they pressured the Lagrange family to surrender her. But the owner resisted. Healing kept his workers alive, his fields productive. His wife said, "If she is wicked, why does she save lives?" The bishop answered, "Because Satan does not destroy his own." Within a week, the plantation was swarmed with clerics, sheriffs, and men with torches. They took Morel in the middle of the night. Witnesses claim she didn't scream. She didn't fight. She simply said, "I have done what I came to do. Now the rest must be seen." Those words would haunt Louisiana for more than a century. Morel's trial was conducted inside the parish cellar, underground, windowless, and smelling of vinegar. There was no lawyer, no jury, not even a written charge. Only 3 men presided, the parish bishop, the sheriff, and a city doctor who owed the bishop money. The transcript, later discovered in a sealed church box, reveals only 3 questions were asked. 1. Where do your powers come from? 2. Why do you refuse the house of God? 3. Who taught you the language you whisper in your sleep? Morel answered with the same calm voice every time. You fear what you buried. The bishop, shaken, attempted an exorcism. When he pressed a crucifix against her forehead, it turned cold, ice cold, burning his skin with frost. He called it sorcery. The sheriff called it proof enough. The decision was unanimous. Death by fire. Not for crimes, not for violence, but because she existed outside their control. That night, a storm rolled across the parish. Thunder rattled windows. Slaves in the quarters whispered prayers. Clergy locked themselves inside their rooms. Because something strange happened hours before dawn. Every lantern on the plantation went out at the same moment. Animals broke from their stalls, and a terrible, unnatural silence fell, like the whole parish was holding its breath. A witness, a stable boy, later said, the air felt like someone was walking through it, touching everyone at once. In her cell, Morel sat upright, eyes open, unblinking. When the guard brought water, she said one final, incomprehensible thing. When the smoke rises, you will see what fear has kept hidden for generations. He resigned the next morning. The pyre was built behind the parish cemetery. Hundreds gathered, some out of fear, some out of morbid curiosity, some out of desperation, hoping the girl who cured so many would save herself. Morel was tied to the stake. Her expression remained calm. As the flames were lit, witnesses claimed the fire bent unnaturally, leaning away from her instead of toward her. The bishop shouted prayers. The crowd cried out. And then, the smoke rose. Thick, black, wrong. Within moments, her body blurred, faded, and vanished entirely. No scream, no collapse. Just an empty pole surrounded by fire that suddenly extinguished itself. Dozens fainted. 3 clergy went blind. And the parish sealed the grounds for weeks. The church declared the event a mirage caused by heat. The sheriff claimed the slave escaped, a physical impossibility. Newspapers were threatened with closure if they printed the story. Families who witnessed it swore oaths of silence. But documents don't lie. Ledger books reveal the parish paid large sums to silence 6 witnesses. The bishop's diary says, if the truth emerges, our authority will crumble. The Lagrange family moved away within a month. And every person cured by Morel changed. Some felt watched. Some heard whispers at night. Some claimed their dreams were no longer their own. One wrote, I traded sickness for something else, something that walks behind me. Within a year, several of the 33 cured individuals displayed strange behaviors. A farmhand claimed he could see people before they arrived. A woman heard voices warning her of dangers hours before they occurred. A boy, once mute, began speaking in a language his parents had never heard. Doctors blamed trauma, but diaries tell another story. They felt connected, as if Morel left a piece of herself in each of them. One wrote, my healing was not a gift. It was an opening. Others believed she had unlocked a part of their ancestry, something older than the plantation, older than slavery, older than the church itself. And that terrified the parish. 3 priests left the church after that night. The bishop suffered hallucinations, visions of Morel standing at the foot of his bed, whispering the same phrase. You fear what you buried. He begged for forgiveness. He confessed secrets no one asked for. And in his final entry, he wrote, if she returns, we deserve everything she brings. The church eventually transferred him to a remote monastery, where he died whispering in a language no one recognized. A year after the execution, the plantation owner's wife disappeared. Her trunk remained in her room, locked. Inside was the leather journal documenting Morel's cures. Pages described in chilling detail the moments before healing occurred. She wrote, she closes her eyes, and something else listens through her. The journal vanished decades later during a church inventory cleansing. But fragments survived, just enough to hint that Morel's abilities were not supernatural, but ancestral. Several witnesses mentioned the strange language Morel spoke while healing. Linguists later identified pieces of it, roots from pre-colonial African dialects fused with something older, something undocumented, something no surviving tribe claimed. One expert wrote, it may be a language reserved exclusively for ritual healers, a generational secret. The parish called it witchcraft, but anthropologists now call it something far more dangerous to institutions of power, knowledge outside their control. Years later, a hidden wing of St. Pelagia Parish was uncovered, an orphanage run in secret from 1830 to 1870. The children housed there were overwhelmingly mixed race. Unwanted, unrecorded, invisible to society. Documents show that several of these children displayed strange abilities similar to the cured 33. The church isolated them, studied them, punished them. One report describes a child who could mimic voices perfectly after hearing them once. Another could sense when someone lied. Another stopped a fever in a girl simply by touching her hand. The church didn't burn these children. They used them, until every trace of them was erased. In 1921, construction workers repairing the seminary basement found a sealed brick room. Inside were boxes of confiscated items, herbs, lockets, ritual carvings, and a cloth pouch labeled simply, Morel. Inside the pouch were ashes. Not human, according to testing. Not wood. Not plant. Something unknown. Something that reacted to light. When exposed to sunlight, the ashes curled, as if trying to move. The seminary destroyed the room within days. In the late 1940s, historians revisiting the Lagrange plantation uncovered inconsistencies. Death records missing. Cemetery plots empty. Parish letters burned intentionally. Yet diaries survived, too many to ignore. They pointed to one chilling pattern. Every witness who tried to speak died unnaturally. Stroke, drowning, heart failure at 30, carriage accidents, all unexplained. One researcher wrote in 1949, "This is not a case study. This is a massacre of truth." And so the story went underground again. Some say Morel was a healer taught by her mother before being sold. Some say she was a ritual priestess from a nearly erased African lineage. Some say she was chosen, not trained. But the most unsettling theory is this. She was a vessel, not possessed, not cursed, but carrying the memories of generations betrayed and buried, memories that refused to die. A living archive of a people America tried to silence. And when she cured someone, she shared that archive. In the present day, the parish refuses to discuss Morel. Residents avoid the old cemetery. Children dare each other to say her name, but only in whispers. Locals claim strange things happen near the original execution site. Lanterns dim. Footsteps follow you. Voices call your name from the tree-line. And sometimes, a barefoot woman is seen in the distance, standing perfectly still, watching. Descendants of the cured 33 still exist. Some moved away. Some stayed. And many report the same experiences. Dreams of a woman with emotionless eyes. A sudden ability to sense danger. Unexplained immunity to illnesses. Nightmares of smoke rising. One descendant confessed, "She visits us because she never died." Another said, "We carry what she carried." And perhaps the most chilling statement came from a man in his 70s. The church feared her because she remembered a truth older than them. How did she disappear? 3 competing theories exist. 1. She escaped using knowledge the church never understood. 2. The fire triggered a ritual the parish misinterpreted as witchcraft. 3. She was taken, absorbed into something ancestral that the human body cannot contain. But the truth may be simpler. She walked into the fire knowing she wouldn't burn. Knowing she belonged to a lineage that refused to die even when chained. Knowing fear has more control over institutions than any miracle ever could. The story of Morel is not about witchcraft. It is about fear. A system terrified that a powerless woman could do what powerful men could not. A church terrified that healing could come from outside their walls. A society terrified of a knowledge older than slavery, older than America, older than the Bible they used to justify her death. Morel's mystery remains unsolved because solving it would force America to confront a truth it has buried under centuries of silence. Some histories don't disappear. They wait. They return. And when smoke rises over Louisiana's old cemeteries, some say you can still hear her whisper. You fear what you buried. Because Morel didn't die. She was never meant to die. She became the memory that refuses to burn.